Are you sure you don't want to do a couple of open mic readings before we start?
Well, I think what my plan was that we would do some of the, I don't know if we call it open mic because you guys are all part of the issue, but some of the readers from the issue, then we'll do Julia's feature, and then some more of the readers from the issue. And so I'm gonna, we're recording. So welcome to the Light Verse and Dark Times reboot. I'm so excited to see all of you here and to celebrate our summer fall issue as it deserves to be celebrated. We are going to start with some of our 3-minute readings, and if I call your name, we're just going to roughly go in alphabetical order till we get to Mary, I think. Then we'll have Julia come in with her her feature, and Julia, as I think you all know, is our featured poet for this issue. I hope you've all read her feature. If not, I encourage you to do so. And you can also learn more about her in our appreciation of her work. So we'll start with, roughly alphabetical order, although again, I don't think Bruce is here. So Bruce Bennett, are you here? Okay, in that case, we would love to start with Laura J, and I hope I'm going to pronounce your last name right. Is it Bobrow?
That's pretty good.
Well, how would you say it?
Bobrow.
Okay, Bobrow is better than
Bobrow.
Laura J. Bobrow. So please take it away.
I'm supposed to read something that was in Light in this issue.
Well, ideally, at least one of your poems for your 3 minutes would be from there, and then you can have another one or two of your choice.
Okay, well, I'll start with one that was in a recent issue of Light. And it's a poem called Be Sure to Feed Your Pet. And the epigraph is Old Mother Hubbard went to the cupboard. It's he who digs the grave sites and when through, helps her to drag the bulky prize away. Here, doggy dear, a nice leg bone for you is meager wage for what he does each day. She has to be 100 years or more. Her voice is cracked, her aged back is bent. He sees his mistress close the cupboard door. Her eyes are dim. What if an accident? A thrust out paw? A fall, and she so frail, with no one else nearby to know or care? He hunkers down and waits. He thumps his tail. She'll be delicious now the cupboard's bare. And I wanted to share with you one of my favorites, although it was published 11 years ago, and more recently in my chapbook called A Little Bit of Banter. This is called At, or rather On, the Shore. Stark terrors underneath the sea upset my equanimity. A flashing glimpse, a hollow sound, a blob of flesh that's washed aground, predicate a lurid scene of deep abyss and labyrinthine recesses wherein kraken lurk to ply their fiendish waterwork, and polyps gape and shark teeth glint while waiting for the merest hint of unsuspecting little toe to venture where no foot should go. That monsters do exist makes sense. Consider this for evidence. A boy I knew, his name was Jim, ignored the signs and went to swim. We saw some blood and heard a shriek, and that was Jim, or so to speak, for folks could never tell for sure from the remaining armature. Which is why I must decline your come on in, the water's fine, though prey to sandfly, crab, and leech. I'll take my chances on the beach. And that's my 3 minutes, and I turn it back to you.
Thank you so much. I wanted to let you all know I have, in case you were wondering why you got muted, I forgot to mention that we would try to keep everybody muted when you're not reading to eliminate background noise. But I will. I hope those of you reading can see the wild applause, see the people falling off their chairs. I know I was laughing uproariously during your reading, Laura, and I look forward to the others. Those of you who've arrived a bit late, we're going in roughly alphabetical order for the first few readers on our list, and then we'll have our featured reader, Julia, and then we'll continue in roughly alphabetical order. So our next reader is going to be Joshua Coben, and I'm pressing the button to ask you to unmute. Great. And yeah, please take it away.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to continue the dog theme that Laura started. So my poem is called, is actually a takeoff, a parody of one of the most famous American poems of all time. And I don't know how many thousands of these parodies have been written. I guess I'm just adding to the many ones. So apologies to Robert Frost. And I will just preface this by saying that I have, I guess, a bit of a contentious relationship with my dog at times. So this poem is called Stopping by the Living Room on My Way Up to Bed. Whose turds these are, I think I know. He figured I would be too slow to catch him defecating here instead of going in the snow. My little dog must think it queer to keep a plastic baggie near and wrap each specimen I take that nature would let disappear. He gives his collar tags a shake as if to say it's no mistake to leave a mound 2 inches deep on carpet for convenience sake. My wife and kids insist we keep this mutt who made the stinking heap that I must scoop before I sleep, that I must scoop before I sleep. And I will do just one more. This one is not a parody. This one is me imagining if plants could place personal ads, looking for connections. So this poem is called Ficus Seeks Cactus. Me, Ficus, Australo-Asian beauty, transplanted to the US, lustrous, leggy, slender but ample on top, adaptable, loving light and shade, indoors and out, a homebody who goes wild abroad, hardy yet delicate, good with kids and pets. You, cactus, saguaro or sunita, no frizzball houseplant, but the real McCoy, tall, succulent, southwestern drawl, barrel chest and broad shoulders, attractive to birds, but not stuck up about it. Thick-skinned, prickly, though liquid inside, maybe scarred by past relationships, pecked, chewed out, left high and dry. Looking for long, stationary walks together, flowering and personal growth, nude sunbathing in the afternoon. And who knows, maybe a lifetime to put down roots and relish a precarious intercourse of spines and leaves. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really enjoyed that reading. I'm sure the ghost of Robert Frost is hovering happily above all of us. Our next reader is Pat D'Amico. And Pat, I am asking to unmute you. You just have to click yes.
Am I okay?
Yes.
Okay, all right. This is my poem from the current issue. It's called Bain de Soleil. With sunscreen on our radar, no. but baby oil would freely flow. We frazzled, fried, almost flambéed, till some of us required first aid. We're wiser now, though somewhat spotted, and with a tan, we're not besotted. This next one was inspired by a newspaper article that I read on a cold day one winter. It's called Frozen in Time. Fueled by stupidity, or hops, or grapes, or weed, and counting on rapidity, 3 dudes divides the deed. Driving on a freeway, they thought nothing could be finer than waking up a dreary day by streaking through a diner. With IQs and the temperature all ranging in the zeros, a plan was hatched that seemed quite sure to satisfy our heroes. As the engine gently idled, they shed coats and shirts and shorts, birthday suited and they sidled, but with boots by all reports. The plan went off without a hitch. The streaking went just fine, but then they saw a fatal glitch had ruined their design, since a certain wily patron who was munching on his meal had decided he would eat and run, for he saw a car to steal. The car went racing down the street with all their clothes inside, leaving them quite indiscreet with no place near to hide. Chagrined with faces blue, not red, they dropped down to their knees right after the policeman said, "I told you all to freeze." This one, Jerome Betts, the editor of Lighten Up Online, challenged us to write an epitaph for one of his contests, so I decided to write my own. My daughter has been instructed to read it at my send-off, so I'll be sure and get the last laugh. It's called "It Wasn't a Raindrop." When I cash in my chips all at one time, on the day that I've written my final rhyme, remember these words, a maternal endeavor, 'cause life is for living and love lasts forever. You can carve them in stone or read them aloud. You might even get a rise from the crowd. If you mope around after I'm dead, I will bend down from heaven and spit on your head. That's it.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
I hope no one will be carving that one in stone anytime soon. Thank you. Okay. Our next reader is Daniel Galef. And yeah, you're ready to go.
So I wasn't actually planning on reading this poem to start with, but I can read the room. There's definitely a pets trend going. So I feel like there have been enough dog poems. I've got a cat poem. This is based on the Christopher Smart poem Jubilate Agno, which he has. There's a very memorable and often sort of anthologized section where he talks about his cat Jeffrey in very religious theological terms. So this is a poem written by his cat Jeffrey. For I will consider my man Christopher, for he is shut in a box and betimes scratches at the door, but is not let out. For his purr is varied and choked, for he has patches of calico, and these he sheds at dusk. For he sleeps not when he would, but all of a night, straight as if lashed to board. For his eye light is golden, for his coat is just a husk. For seventhly, he makes his tabby marks on parchment with a wagging quill. For his nerves are never quiet, for he dreams of parks. For his whiskers wilt, for he strokes me, for he needs me. For he arches in his sunbeam, for he serves the living God, by which I mean he feeds me. That one, I think, speaks a lot to all of us who are shut in for a while, because it was written while he was in an asylum. And if there's anything I know about cats, it's that they always want to go out. We'll stick with animals, but get smaller. The last thing I published in Light, I haven't got much choice, because it was just this very short poem about ants called, yeah, okay, I heard that, but can an ant really lift 5,001 times its own body weight if it can just lift 5,000? An ant can't. So yeah, that's all there is to that. But now that I've read a really short entomological poem, I feel like it's only, I have to balance it out by reading a slightly longer entomological poem. This one is called The Centipede, and it was published in a journal of children's literature. The centipede, as any etymologist will tell you, derives from the Greek word for 100, and as any entomologist will tell you, has exactly 100 eyes and 100 arms, but very few charms. So it's always great when a centipede falls in love and finds a mate. When two centipedes find that they can see eye to 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 eye. And when they do, they run off together, hand in hand and 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 hand in hand in hand in hand in hand. I had such fun writing that one that I wrote a sequel called The Millipede, but we don't have time to read that now. All right, and that's my time.
David, thank you.
Nope.
So sometime we will look forward to hearing the Millipede, you know, when we have a 10-hour reading. So that'll be awesome. Thank you. All right. Our next reader will be David Galef. And David, go ahead and unmute, please.
Sure. Okay. Wait, unmute, but I think I start video. There we go. There we go. All right.
Yeah, you're all there.
Thank you. I have my doubts sometimes. I'm going to read the one that is in light, and then time permitting, I'll read one or two more. We'll see. This one is called Trump, Schooled. And as some of you may recognize, it's based a bit of on an old joke, which I think is no joke. So Trump Schooled. Trump drops in on a local school, trying to prove that he's no fool. Most of the teachers scurry away, but one of them stops by to say, "Happy to see you, Mr. Trump. Maybe you'll get us out of a slump. Today we're discussing tragedy. Can you lead the class instead of me?" Trump figures, sure, he's a real whiz, and asks, "Who can say what tragedy is?" One girl in back raises a hand. "We live on a farm with a lot of land. If a tractor crushes my brother flat, is that an example? How about that?" Trump shakes his head. "Not what I meant. Something like that is an accident." Next up, a little boy volunteers. "What if a big truck suddenly veers, hits a school bus and kills 33? Wouldn't that be a tragedy?" Trump frowns again. "Sorry, chum. That's just a big loss, at least for some." After a while, the silence grows long. Trump grows impatient. "This is all wrong. Can nobody give me a definition?" One girl in back, as if on a mission, says, "What if a heat-seeking missile smashes into the Oval Office and trashes the office and you, Mr. President?" Trump smacks his thigh. "Now that's what I meant. Next question for you. Can you tell me why?" The girl puts on an expression that's wry. "Well, no big loss the way it went, and it sure wouldn't be an accident." And that's the poem. Let's see how we're doing on time here. I think in the time remaining, I'm going to read something that appeared years ago in Pivot, edited by Alfred Dorn, if anyone remembers that magazine. It's called The State of the Art, and it also is not that funny in some ways. So, literature, that romantic old bastard, is sick again, aslant on his chair, like a spread eagle book already plastered by noon and mumbling, "Life's unfair." He speaks these days, ventriloquizing, in a voice long ruined by social disease. His brilliant spasms slowed to writhing in minute gestures that nobody sees. What can we do for the drunken degenerate? Tear up his license, make sure he's not read, submit him to lectures, make him aware that we don't want him living, we don't want him dead. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'm really enjoying these readings. we are moving on to, if Claudia has joined us, Claudia Gary, are you here, Claudia?
Yes, I'm here. Thanks.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
All
really
right,
enjoying
take it
this.
away,
Thank you.
Claudia.
Thank you.
Your 3 minutes
Okay.
have arrived.
Okay, thank you. So I don't have any dog or cat poems, but I have a panda poem that was on recently on Light Poems of the Week. Panda Cam RNC Day 4. Has she misplaced her cub so full of squee? Whew, no, she hears its outsized melody and takes it to her breast as well she might. The finest viewing option for tonight. Thank you. And then the one that was is in this coming issue is called the Red Roadster, which refers to Elon Musk's Tesla Roadster. So much depends upon a red-wheeled roadster blazed across Twitter beside the blue planet. And then one more, thank you, if there's time. So this is kind of the predecessor to the Panda Cam poem. This was in 3 years ago. I think it was the first issue of Light Poems of the Week. Giraffe delivers on live cam. If anyone remembers, it was April the giraffe. It was who was at a zoo that had a camera you could check anytime. Giraffe delivers on live cam. Watch April in labor. Watch Oliver pace. Watch missile tests slide down to second, third place. From front hooves have emerged. What cute little knees. I don't want a war. I want one of these. While baby's legs hang, mom stops for a snack. Why can't that long tongue give the White House a whack? When hotheads prevail, stability sours. This calf soon will crash land, then walk within hours, upstaging its mom, but she won't go ballistic. She's caring and calm, not at all narcissistic. Is April to blame for stealing the show? Let world leaders learn what giraffe mothers know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claudia. And I want to clarify, your poem about the Red Roadster is out and live already in the summer fall issue. So everyone who wants to see it again, go to Claudia's page. Thank you, Claudia. Okay, our next reader will be Lynn Gilbert. And Lynn, feel free to unmute.
Yes. Well, this is a poem about eggplants, which I was interested to learn are related to tomato, potato, tobacco, and Jimson weed. Eggplant. How tender and toothsome, how royal a food. I could eat it all night, declared Sultan Mahmud. Oh yes, cried his courtier, the healthful eggplant with garlic and spice one can never supplant. Its flesh baked in oil on a slow charcoal fire is a treat fully worthy a sultan's desire. It multiplies wisdom. It quickens the eye, makes a man a fine hunter, and strengthens his thigh. All blessings on eggplant served straight from the oven, for eggplant is surely a foretaste of heaven. The Sultan was pleased with his courtier's advice. He ate up the eggplant with garlic and spice until he was sated, and then loosened his vest. This eggplant's a dish I no longer like best. I seem to be breaking all out in a sweat. The flavor of eggplant comes back to me. The aftertaste bitter, the belly pain dire. His courtier responded, oh, worshipful sire, away with the eggplant, the work of the devil. The eggplant accursed since it causes you trouble. Let farmers forthwith pull their plants from the ground and let it no more in your kingdom be found. What's this? Cried the Sultan. A moment ago, you were loud in the praises of eggplant, you know. You seem to have shifted around with the wind. First, eggplant's an angel. Now, eggplant has sinned. Ah, I am your courtier, great Sultan Mahmud. I never profess me the courtier of food. My task is to praise or to blame at your beck, to practice the art that is called rhetoric. If you change your mind, so will I mend my tune. You stand like the sun, I must change like the moon. Thus at last, thanks to eggplant, the Sultan grew wise and honored the dish that had opened his eyes. Henceforth, I'll eat eggplant, but in moderation, and trust my own judgment as I rule the nation. And then my very short poem from the last issue of Light, although not as short as Aunt Can't. This is called Fortune Cookie. Your lottery numbers are pi, -1, and absolute 0. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's it, right? Okay. Thank you so much. That was a good pairing. All right, we are on to Ashley Grice. And Ashley, I am going to, yeah, you're unmuted already. Good. Please
Great.
Go ahead.
Hello. So my day job, just for some perspective, is that I run a consulting company during the day. And so my day has changed quite a bit under COVID, but there are some things that no matter the medium stay the same. And so that is what this poem is about. It's called On Mansplaining. He boldly states it to the room, a thought refined, first offered quietly, then boom, repeated loudly, now it blooms, nods of assent. They're all aligned. I shake my head, my face bemused. His thoughts acknowledged as sublime. I like it too, as it was mine. So that's my first one. And the second one actually is something that I do miss about being COVID and not going into the office. And it's a description of what I called, it's entitled Consulting Meet Cute. So when you walk into a meeting and you look around, and most often everybody looks just like everybody else, except for sometimes it's one of these things is not like the other. So this is called Consulting Meet Cute. I stand among 10 men, all wearing blue, wide range of hues. They look like twins and triplets, C-suite bound. All trim, armed forces hair and shoes that gleam, teeth white and clean. A corporate pageant with no swimsuit round. My fingers are consumed in a strong shake. My pinky aches. Why dominate my hand to this degree? In Europe, I'll smile, air peck by your cheek is all they seek, and skirts the need for costly therapy. We open up our laptops to begin like practiced hymns, the click of typing keys whirring along. More voices drone over the conference line. Late entrance chime, composing as we go, a jargon song. The client probes with questions like a pro. We have a go, like aegis sailors launching the system. The presentation is a lengthy tome, an epic poem, a Beowulf that ends in a win-win. Our time is up, we leave firing range, cards are exchanged. We quickly pack our papers, fates unknown. Maneuvering this world demands my all. Inside baseball, one click buys a blue blazer from my phone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great. I am looking for Mary Kipps. I know you were here, but your name's not up. I think one of these phone symbols is you. Are you here?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Oh, good, good. Okay, so you don't have the visuals, just the audio, right?
I just have the audio, yes.
Okay, well, please go ahead.
Okay, the first poem I'd like to read today is the one in the current issue of Light, and it's called The 5 Flavors of Grief. The supermarket ice cream aisle is where I head when feeling blue. The only way I know to cope, a gallon, nothing less will do. In wounded days, I go to grab his favorite flavor, cherry swirl, my heart refusing to accept he's dumped me for another girl. The sudden sting of freezer burn ignites my anger. He's a toad, I don't need him. I'll persevere and stoke my strength with rocky road. Then just as quick resentment melts, I'll get the one I like the least. My sacrifice will bring him back. Lime sherbet, bargain of the week. He made it clear. It did no good to cry, to plead. I've never felt so much despair. It's chocolate that I truly need. I'll find a man who treats me right instead of like his serving wench, a sweet vanilla guy, although it wouldn't hurt if he were French. In addition to submitting my work to poetry journals, I also have 2 ebooks in the Amazon Kindle store, the contents of which were written as free verse and originally formatted as such. And they narrate the humorous misadventures of an old world vampire named Victor, whose Moravian ancestry requires him to draw blood in his birthday suit. So the second poem I'd like to read today is one from my first ebook, All in Vain, Vain being spelled V-E-I-N. And this poem is titled Victor on the Perils of Holiday Drinking. He can't believe he's being arrested again, and by the same policewoman who, 6 weeks back, mistook his Moravian hunting garb for that of an exhibitionist and kicked him in the family jewels. Even inebriated as he is, Victor recognizes her scent. You again, she says, shaking her head. You are going to be one sorry sucker. Victor couldn't agree more. Perhaps he shouldn't have imbibed quite so heavily at that New Year's Eve party. He can't recall anything after his 5th victim, and he has no idea how he came to be licking the glass door of the Red Cross building. His stomach churns, and he heaves a healthy portion of eau de vie into the gutter. Ugh! Her nose wrinkles in disgust. What were you drinking? Bloody Marys? Victor would like to oblige her with an answer, but he never asks their names. Without ceremony, he is shoved in the back of a paddy wagon, where 3 revelers are already slumped. Victor burps in surprised delight. Nightcaps. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mary. Wow, what a great bunch of readings so far. We are going to move into our featured reading now, and then we will go back to our roughly alphabetical list, and we will pick back up with Leslie Monsour, who, if she is feeling up to it today, will be singing a bit. Julia, as many of you already know, is our featured poet in Light's summer fall issue. She hails from Georgia and England, and she is a professor of English literature. I'm going to let her get started so that we have more time with Julia and less with me. But I'm very excited to hear your reading, Julia, and please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, have I done it okay? Wonderful, thank you very much, Melissa and everybody. So I took some that were in Light and some not, and I think this should work for 10 minutes. If it gets too many, just kind of clamor and tell me to shut up. But I'm watching the time here on my computer, right. So the first one I thought I'd read is Rosie. Rosie Moves On, which is about Rosie the Riveter, everybody's favorite. Am I loud enough? It's okay. And it was sparked, like all our Light poems, with the death of the real Rosie the Riveter, whose name was Naomi Parker Fraley, at the age of 96. Interviewing her, the World Herald asked her how it felt to be known publicly as Rosie the Riveter. "Victory," she cried, "victory, victory." Tough as a trivet, our Rosie the Riveter, builder of B-17s in the war. Rosie, whose hands could do all that a man's could do, hangs up her gun now and walks off the floor. Buddy, not siren, she, life's little irony, bore the name Fraley. The poets would say, this little frail can do more than a male will do. Rosie just spat through her rivets, okay. Fit and bandanaed, you'd do what no man would do, Rosie, and shrugged when they patted your head. Work was the issue. Oh, Rosie, we'll miss you. No one that living knows ever quite dead. Anytime women'll fight being liminal, anytime girls roll their sleeves up and try, heart nailing thunderbolts, strong and no wonder bolts, Rosie will cheer from her bench in the sky. Freedom is all to gain, not to be stalled again. Doors have been opened, don't let them reclose. Think of the riveter, come on and give it her. Thank and remember the Rosie who rose. Okay, here's a short one, and this was in Light a little while ago, and it's called Haply, and it's based on that poem of Christina Rossetti, When I Am Dead, My Dearest, which is a lovely poem, but is somewhat self-indulgent, quite honestly, so I felt it was fair game. When I am dead, my dearest, thou wilt be wholly free to load me with exotic shrubs and hug them mournfully. But since the air of England is ever somewhat wet, whether thou wilt, I wonder, that they will wilt, I bet. Okay, this one is not a light one, but it was accepted in Asses of Parnassus, and it's called No Good Turn, and it's a moral tale. So, after losing his home and his name, the gambler finally quits and finds himself in the midst of a game, at Monte perhaps, or the Ritz, to judge by the elegant look of the place, its almost ravenous chic, though the level of dress impresses him less than the length of his winning streak. For flush-faced men and expensive girls are jostling limb by limb, yet every time the big wheel twirls, it sweeps up the lot for him, till at last he smiles at the one with the rake and blinks at his wonderful pile, and murmurs, maybe for old time's sake, I could lose just once in a while. Of course, in heaven, I quite concur that a good run should run far. And the croupier chuckles indulgently, sir, is that where you fancy you are? Okay, I think I'll do this one next. And this is, Claudia, you did a William Carlos Williams one, and he is the gift that keeps on giving, isn't he, really? So this one was in Lighten Up Online and is called Reinventing the Wheelbarrow, and it's a sort of true story. So much depends on the rusty wheelbarrow blocking the gate in my chain link fence, without which both dogs would squeeze, as they have done, out to the road, alerting so-called humane control, before which they'd seize their chance to rampage round the neighbourhood, possibly killing a cat, they've done it before, in open view of the poor, bereaved, justifiably wild ex-owner, sworn devotee of the Second Amendment, along with the rest of the road, town, state and nation, now all intent on keeping us safe from harm, with a wall enormously higher than my link fence or gate, confirming how much depends on the rusty wheelbarrow. I don't know what colour it once was. Why? Okay, I'm doing all right. This one is, I love the Noah's Ark story. Actually, it's a completely horrible story, really, in which almost everybody gets killed. But what one thinks about is the kind of good bit, as it's so visual. And you can't see, but this is my tiny little Noah Ark pin with a lot of jolly looking animals. And this one is called Anti-Ark, and you'll sort of see how it goes. Observing earthly climate change, the Lord, again put out, decided on destruction not by deluge, but by drought. The land dried up, there were no clouds, so clearly none was dark. The sea shrank back, and everywhere became a sort of ark, a holding pen for animals, the difference being just that now there was Noah at Noah, and their food was full of dust. There was no Noah, no, but nonetheless, a small elite was charged with partial salvage, not this time elite with feet, but rather fins or pincers or a crusty sort of rind and other choice equipment of an oceanic kind. Together they collaborated, how I do not know, on setting up a tank replete with precious H2O, then leaping, climbing, slithery and hitching of a ride till all the representatives were safely lodged inside. The turtles, cockles, oysters, and the whole crustacean crew, unclean by nature, were confined numerically to 2. And so, when drops first fell again upon the shriveled land, and calls went out for volunteers to recce it first hand, these species showed a certain marked unwillingness to scout, although, of course, the best designed for carrying it out. Oh, why, snapped each crustacean spouse, should this devolve on us, considering that everlasting dietary fuss? You kosher crowd have 7 each, why shouldn't it be you? But finally the common good, or something like, won through. A lobster bold agreed to an exploratory spree, and rapidly retreated, the reverse of all at sea. But this won fame, a prospect far too tempting to withstand, and next a turtle tried. Her shell was quickly strewn with sand, not though the soft and floaty sort, all whiskery and light, but heavy, dark and juicy, all the eels implored a bite. So shortly both the hermit crabs consented, nothing loath, to try a longer journey, but they stipulated both. Then all the gallant tanker-nauts came crowding to the glass, and through their watered window saw a wonder come to pass. Across the starchy, parchy, ignominious terrain, they saw two crabs a-jiving in the rain, and once again, a-jiving and a-thriving in the driving, driving rain. How am I doing for time?
You could do a couple more if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's a little one, which is called Po-Faced. I bought a raven, nothing loath. I nourished it with grits. Initially, I called it Quoth, but then I called it Quits. That really is a silly poem. Okay, I think I'd like to do, I'll do two more if I can. And this one speaks very much to me at the moment. It's called Old Timers, which I gather is the kind of folk etymology for another word, and you'll see which it is. Old Timers. In the home for the old time patients, the matron is starting to shout, "Where have they gone, good gracious? The patients have busted out." And lo, from surgeons' parking to the wealthy visitors' lawns, those old time folks are out larking like hospital bed-gowned fawns. The doctor bangs on the window, yells, "I've got news for you. You've all got old timers syndrome." And they yell right back, "Sure do." Away they dance down the driveway where the aspidistras stand. Chipper as children on Friday, they skip along hand in hand till they come to the beautiful beaches where the old-time Lethe flows. Then they cheer, those game old creatures, and leap in twirling their toes and crowing out their old-time credo, "We're all done giving a damn. We're good old-timers on the Lethe Lido, good old-timers on the Lamb." Okay, I've got time for one more. Okay. Well, this one is a kind of soppier one. It's called The Chicken's Wedding, and it's based on tiles that I saw in the Lisbon Tile Museum. They're really rather wonderful, which show a chicken being brought in procession to her wedding, pulled by monkeys. And apparently it's all a rather sarky piece of satire about the marriage of the Infanta because of Portuguese-Spanish relations. But the idea of a chicken's wedding and the picture of the chicken seemed to me so charming. So this is for the chicken's wedding. Did you come to the chicken's wedding as everybody came, in a carriage of yellow bedding with curtains as blue as flame? Were you driven by green-faced monkeys to St. Columba's nest, where a chorus of crested flunkies greeted each eager guest? Did you sing at the chicken's wedding when everybody sang, the thrushes threnody threading through the crow's discordant clang? The ostriches all magentaed stood fanning like anything as the bride demurely entered, her wing on her father's wing. Did you cry at the chicken's wedding when everybody cried? The ringdove too was shedding big tears by the bridegroom's side. The cardinal squawked the blessing, and somebody pecked my cheek, beholding the rooster pressing his beak to the chicken's beak. Did you dance at the chicken's wedding when everybody danced? The turkeys trimly treading with their uncles and their aunts, deft magpies and sharp new DJs went twirling with trays of drinks, while the he-jays jazzed with the she-jays and the phoenix waltzed with the sphinx. Do you dream of the chicken's wedding, as everybody dreams, of peacocks' dreams outspreading and streamers extending streams, as, quelling the bantam's banter, the chicken, so finely wed, passed proud as a proud infanta, with her red comb on her head? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julia. Oh, that was terrific. And I, again, want to encourage everyone who hasn't yet read her feature in the current issue of Light to please do so. And although we didn't have time for a lengthy bio here, you can learn a lot more about Julia and her life in the appreciation in the issue as well.
It's absolutely fascinating, never a dull moment, really. Don't miss my spying career.
Don't miss her spot and her, you know, various tours as a burlesque dancer also. Don't miss that. Thank you so much, Julia. All right, so we're going to go back to our more or less alphabetical list of readers. Leslie Monsour, we said we would go to you next. Is this a good time for you? Okay, wonderful. So we're going to go to Leslie and then we're going to go back in the alphabet because I see that Bruce Bennett has arrived, and we'll go back to Bruce and then we will jump forward again to Andrew Nichols. So Leslie, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Melissa. And I just want to say you're my favorite poet, my favorite editor, and I like your poems and your journal too. And okay, this little ditty goes out to the young people and their seething hormones. That I can't imagine how complicated life is for especially college students. And I've heard that danger and risk are an aphrodisiac to make matters worse. But anyway, here is Robbie Burns coming through the virus. Can a body meet a body coming through the virus? Don't come near to me, my dear, though you may feel desirous. Nay, laddie, may lie down with me. Nay, laddie, steal my heart. 'Tis all because the lads and I must stay 6 feet apart. Gin a body, kiss a body, need a body, ask. Ask or not, there'll be no kissing, even with a mask. Nay, laddie, may lie down with me. Nay, laddie, steal my heart. 'Tis all because the lads and I must stay 6 feet apart. Gin a body, meet a body, jogging up the path. We must beware lest we might share our particles of breath. Nay, laddie, may lie down with me. Nay, laddie, hear me sigh. There'll be no hanky-panky while we're coming through the virus. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. You are my favorite Robert Burns parodist singer, no qualifiers.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. Wow. Okay. Now we are going back to our alphabetical list, and Bruce, looks like you're ready to roll with your 3 minutes of fame. So please get started. Thank you.
And I apologize for being late. I've been looking forward to this for weeks. And then I was thinking it started at 4, so I panicked. I'm glad I didn't miss too much, but I'll watch it again. I'll watch it when it's on YouTube. So two poems, one very short that was in the issue of Light, and the other more recent and a bit longer, but within the time limit. First is Presidents. From one who could not tell a lie, we have one now who does not try to tell the truth. We guess the mean for most fell somewhere in between. And this is called COVID Cautionary Rhymes. It was originally COVID Nursery Rhymes, and then I realized it's not for children, obviously, so you can hear who it's for. Vicky Vector wouldn't wear a mask. She'd shriek, "I won't, you can ask and ask." Then COVID came along and checked her, and that was the end of Vicky Vector. Arnold and Lillian smirked. It's a hoax. It's all a conspiracy by those folks. First, they felt a bit under the weather. Now they're buried close together. Clutch was a big one for hugging and kissing. You all don't know all the fun you're missing. Distancing? That's just a rule to flout. No one was there when they laid Clutch out. Quarantines for freaks and losers, Quaff would shout amidst the boozers, his rowdy friends at dives and bars. Search for him now amidst the stars. Vane was addicted to crowds that roared. Anything else left him sulky and bored. Nothing will happen, just wait and see. Besides, who cares? It won't happen to me. COVID hung out and surveyed the scene. His humor was cruel and his appetite keen. He loved how illusion proves stronger than fears. Looks like I'll be here for years and years. There's gonna be pain and there's gonna be tears. Yes, sir, cooed COVID, for years and years. I may leave for a bit, but I'll return. One thing's for certain, they'll never learn. Thank you. John.
Thank you so much, Bruce. And Bruce's reading reminds me, many of our readers today are very prolific authors, and with books you can buy online, check their names on Amazon and so on. But I wanted to encourage those of you who have a new book out, or maybe just want people to be aware of something you have out, you can write it in the chat and even put a link for people who might be interested. So keep an eye on the chat and feel free to add to it. And of course, if you are a contributor to Light or have been a contributor to Light, we are always very happy to tout your latest publications, your latest books on our news page. So don't forget to tell us about that, and we will always add a mention and a link so people can buy it. Okay, moving on to Andrew Nichols.
There we go. Yes, I'm making note, tout book in 2 weeks. All right, 3 poems, all under a minute. First from the issue, Follow the Bouncing Molecule. As darkling evening fell upon the age of swamp and glyptodon, a stegosaur its anguish boomed and was in silent silt entombed. That ancient swamp became a bay whose crofters fashioned bricks of hay combined with sand and local clay dug up from where the creatures lay. A tidy village built of these endured for several centuries till came a city brave and tall and paved them over one and all. Progress called as progress must, the bricks were found and ground to dust, then tossed into the bay, thus powdered, oyster-eaten, caught, and chowdered. The dinosaurs are dead, but fool, you can't destroy a molecule, and that is why the waiters say your soup tastes kind of weird today. Untitled. Who's heard the nonsense Brooks babble about guide dogs for men, the duck blinds? Who parks the cars the moon waxes? Where are the clocks the road winds? Who placed the cups dawn has broken on the table for 2 the sun sets? Who prints the stories clouds cover about all the cash the fish nets? Where are the horses leaves rustle, the voters at willow trees sway? Ask me a question tomorrow and I'll give you the answer today. Where are the sad men birds chirrup? Who eats all the fruit thunder peels and the soft teddy bear the milk curdles? Do they fence the paintings time steals? Who frames the sketch the cock doodled about folks in the jokes the ice cracks? Who wears the scarves the tails woven after folding the clothes the wolf packs? Where are the horses leaves rustle, the voters at willow trees sway? Ask me a question tomorrow, I'll give you the answer today. And thirdly, The Coast Road, based on a true experience. Challengers, Chargers, and Mustangs, all charging and challenging forth, are all that one sees out of Los Angeles to Nepenthe, 300 miles north. A charger, 3 Mustangs, a charger on the highway, Big Sur on their mind. With the blue sea amassing, a Challenger passing, and 2 Mustangs on your behind. 3 Mustangs parked by the roadside, one of the dudes on his cell, watching Challengers, Chargers, and Mustangs, challenge, charge, and Mustang to Carmel. 3 Mustangs, all white, all topless, enjoying the ocean's salt tanginess, parade end to end as their owners pretend not to notice their mutual Mustanginess. 80 miles north, 3 more Mustangs, again end to end, and all gray, the last of the 3 doubtless wishing that he had driven the Charger today. Challenger, Challenger, Prius, and then gray Mustangs, 1, 2, 3, Charger, Mustang, Volkswagen van, guy on a bike, and the sea.
Thank you so much. That was great. One other thing I forgot to say was that I know we had a lot of back and forth, you contributors to this issue and I, but it may be that I missed a message or two from people who said they would indeed like to read. So if anybody's here who didn't get on that train, please just send me a message in the chat and we will add you to our lineup. I think we will have time to add at least a couple more people if you want to do your 3 minutes. So with that in mind, we will move on to our next scheduled reader, who is Chris O'Carroll. And Chris, please go ahead.
Thank you, Melissa. This poem, this first one, appeared in Light a few issues back. This is Yellow Brick Limerick. Said a young lady traveling in Oz, "The 3 guys in my life have real flaws. I've got one who lacks heart, one who's not very smart, one with no balls," which gives a girl pause. And in the current issue of Light, I have a parody of a Philip Larkin poem that many other poets have also parodied. It's his "This Be the Verse," which is irresistible, right? It starts with the lines, "They fuck you up, your mom and dad. They may not mean to, but they do. They give you all the faults they had and add some extra just for you." My parody takes the form of a rewritten Christmas carol. This is Philip Larkin's "Away in a Manger." They tucked him up, his mom and dad, in a manger in a stable, the only baby bed they had, according to the ancient fable. 'Tis said the stars looked down on him. Perhaps the roof was full of holes. Both church and state would frown on him. It's a mug's game, saving souls. Awakened by the sound cows make, he doesn't cry as most babes do. He's in for more than one bad break. He won't have kids, I'll warrant you. And from that uplifting expression of the Christmas spirit, let's jump right to the Halloween spirit. This is an October seasonal poem, not the first vampire poem of the afternoon, interestingly enough. This is Vampire Desire. Though A is delicious and B is nutritious, while AB is rich and complex like a vintage Bordeaux, undead epicures know that type O is better than sex. Ask any au fait Transylvanian gourmet, no drug that a junkie injects provides half the pleasure of this ruby treasure, for type O is better than sex. O is more than okay. OMG, O's ole. It's all that I want from your necks. To you mortals, big O is the best, but I know that type O is better than sex. Thank you, and happy Halloween to everybody.
Thank you, Chris. Happy Halloween to you too. This is great. Wow, I didn't know we'd have so many Halloween poems. This is perfect. I love it. Our next reader, whose name I think I may have mispronounced in my doggerel announcing the issue. Am I getting it right this time, Nina? Is it Nina Parmenter?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. This is the poem that was in this issue of Light. And I wrote it back at the beginning of lockdown when we didn't have much contact with the outside world. And one of the few humans we came into contact with was the Amazon man. And as this poem suggests, this was not a healthy state of affairs. It's called The Ballad of the Amazon Man. He came like a shipment of comfort and joy. He came bearing parcels for me. Oh, the Amazon man was a god in a van. He had hair like the sound of the sea. He brought me my stories. He brought me my songs. He brought me my rice cookers 3. And whenever he called, a big smile would be scrawled on each box, for he loved only me. One day, as I sat with a screen full of deals and my eye on an order or 3, why, who should I spy but my Amazon guy, with that hair like the sound of the sea. He was visiting Jackie from over the road, so I lurked by my curtains to see. Well, my heart turned to rocks when I spotted the box. Jackie's package was smiling at me. The next day, my Judas returned to my porch, saying, "Sign if you would on line 3. I said, "Oh, that's a pain. Just come in from the rain for a moment. I'm struggling to see." With a flick of my fingers, I bolted the door, and he looked disconcerted at me. For there, open wide, with a smile on its side, lay a casket with ratchet straps 3. So now there's no man in a heavenly van, no next day deliveries for me. No smile and no box. I make do with these locks of that hair like the sound of the sea. The other one I'm going to read is quite silly. It was published in Lighten Up Online last year, and it is probably the funniest poem I've ever written about fire safety systems, and it's called Sprinklers. Baby blue bananas hanging from a tree, levitating llamas drifting over me. I clutch my melted goggles as I tell a chatty crab, I should have fitted sprinklers in my lab. I was engineering oceans, tweaking DNA, brewing godly potions and splicing death away. A health and safety handbook, well, it all seemed rather drab, but I should have fitted sprinklers in my lab. The ecto soup was bubbling, the methane fumes were doubling, acid spilt, the gases built. The smell was more than troubling. The Van de Graaff threw off a spark, the fires traced a farty arc, and clouds of bio-wonderment burst out into the dark. Phosphorescent sparrows working out in pairs, marigolds and marrows dancing on the stairs. I tell a nice cadaver who is giggling on a slab, I should have fitted sprinklers in my lab.
Thank you, Nina. And that fit very nicely with our Halloween theme, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Our next reader is Jan Schreiber.
Okay. A very short one that appeared in Light. It's called, they're all on the same theme, Self-Isolation by Choice. In these dark days, there's little hope for any but the misanthrope. And much on the same theme, but somewhat longer, is a song for a cold shower. Missing you has the virtue of its defects. It stokes the furnace of our old desire. Without desire, there wouldn't even be sex. And we'd be two of Aphrodite's rejects in exile, while the blissful lovers choir, missing you has the virtue of its defects. This being apart is an elaborate pretext to fill the soul with dreams that light our fire. Without desire, there wouldn't even be sex, and at hell's verge, the chaste but ardent prefects ponder this paradox while they perspire. Missing you has the virtue of its defects. I dreamed I kissed your knee and felt a reflex reminding me to aim a little higher. Without desire, there wouldn't even be sex, and we'd be fossils slumbering with T-Rex. I'd sell my state if I could find a buyer who'd think it had the virtues of its defects. We dream of sex, but will there ever be sex? Thank you.
Jan, thank you so much. And of course, that tied in very nicely with one of our other main themes of the day. Yeah, I don't know about the rest of you, but this is cheering me up enormously. Our next reader, whose name I think I also may have been butchering on the regular, is David. I want you to say your last name because I think I may be saying it wrong. David, are you unmuted? No. I've clicked off. There you go.
Which, oh, it's just southward, just like the direction.
It is? Oh, good. I thought you were not pronouncing the W and I messed up. Okay, good. All right. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you. It's really nice to be able to attach faces to the names. So this is a real pleasure. Thank you. So I'm going to read the poem, or one of the poems that was in the latest issue. This is called Thinness Makes Us Cruel. The newly slim are never rid of fat they carried as a kid, the discipline it took to lose, the bathroom scale and mirror blues, and shame's loose clothes leave residues of failure even in success, with moody bouts of vengefulness. Observe, when they refuse dessert, how long they eye it, as though hurt by those who nibble, laugh, and chatter, with zero fear of growing fatter. Clinging to thinness like an adder, they'll wave goodnight, unsatisfied, and gnaw the eggshell of their pride. Such veterans of self-denial assume that thinness is a trial, with love as its deserved reward. But love obeys a different Lord. It comes for those who drop their sword, who'll traipse through undefended lands, eating from its open hands. And so the thin restock their shelves with canned reflections of themselves, remembering how long it's been since they were able to dig in. There's still a chance if by some sin they violate their golden rule of non-indulgence, they'll begin to realize thinness makes us cruel. And then this next one is, I think it was in the last issue. It's called Advice for Poets. And it's based on something I actually read in a book by a poetry critic teacher. Advice for Poets. Write what you want to read, they say. It sounds like good advice, but what if your taste in poetry has never been precise? I'm awed by Milton's epic suite and Dickinson's compression, equally wowed by Hausman's poise and Platt's white-hot confession. The belted joy of Whitman's song can bring me to my knees. More quietly, I'm moved to tears by Rilke's elegies. It's fun to exercise one's brain on Donne's ingenious riddles, then strip down for a cleansing dip in Frost's New Hampshire Idylls. After a dizzying metrical flight with Poe and his raven love, I revel in the down-to-earth free verse of Rita Dove. Give me a 21st century voice with wounds still raw from the street, but pair it with a ballad rhyme's relaxed ancestral beat, with Stephen's meditative depth, a sculpture like Millet's, Blake's fervor, plus the restlessness and wrath of Terence Hayes. Write what you want to read? Okay, but what does the crystal ball advise for writers like myself who want to read it all? And just a quick shout out, my book, A Bachelor's Buttons, is actually reviewed in the latest issue of Light. So, and I think there are links there to purchase. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, David. And thank you in your first poem for giving me license to go eat some more pumpkin biscotti after this reading. Thank you. Our next reader is Katherine Barrett Swett.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yes.
So this first poem is in the current issue of Light, and in some ways it's a better poem on the page, I think, but I'm going to read it. It's an abecedarius or an ABC, etc. poem. And it's imagined to be from Eve to Adam, but because I needed to end with Z, I thought of Eve's name meaning living, and so I called her Zoe. So that's how I got to my Z. It has an epigraph from Milton: of man's first disobedience and the fruit. Adam, you're always assuming it's about the apple, but your bad behavior was blaming me, compounded by cowardice. Disobedience doesn't damn, except when followed by gaslighting, harassment, irresponsibility. Just know yourself. Lying makes nakedness overtly pitiable. Quit quivering among the quinces. Responsibility for self takes understanding, valor, wisdom. XXXOO, yours, Zoe. And earlier my cat made an appearance, but unfortunately I think my husband must have fed him because he's no longer harassing me. But this was the first poem I published in Light. And it is about my beloved cat, Rocky, who is also my irritating cat, Rocky. So back to the animal theme. And it's called Catterall, the feline equivalent of the canine doggerel. Could I incorporate your hairs, your rhythmic, slanting, green-eyed stares, aggressive purr, the tail you switch into my verse, I might not pitch your cuddly crescent on the floor, as I have done 5 times before. As you stretch out upon my page, I learn how close are love and rage. But since you can't fit in a line, and I can't write words on your spine, or make your fur a perfect rhyme, or use your purr to help keep time, I'll open up a can of chow and trust you'll go away for now. I think that's probably enough, right?
I think that was roughly 3 minutes, a great 3 minutes, and thank you so much, Katherine. That was great. Our next reader is Marilyn L Taylor, and hopefully you can unmute.
There, I knew I could do it. It's a challenge, but I did it. Thank you, Melissa. The poem that I would like to start out with was in the most recent edition of Light, and it is spoken in the first person plural, none of whom mean you and me and those we know and love. It's called Herd Immunity, a Manifesto. Why won't the virus hit on us? Because we are invincible. So let's go out and yuck it up on principle. It's time for making out again without a stupid mask. And as for social distancing, don't even ask. We're under 41 years old, which means that we're immune or nearly. So let's hit the beach this afternoon. Tonight, the bars and restaurants will ooze with babes and nerds, all set to rock and roll again. Just mark my words. And should we cough or sniff or sneeze or kiss, hey, don't we wish? We'll simply be replenishing the petri dish. So come on in and party hard with all your sozzled friends. Indulge your immortality until it ends. And then I have a tiny 4-liner that I like to throw in whenever I can. It describes my own family's dynamic when I was growing up, and it's called Family Dynamic. My father's name was not Mel, but it rhymed, so I used it. Mel, the dad from hell, raised your kids in a padded cell. Not one soul cried the night you died, but mother giggled like a bride. And finally, I have a sonnet on the Halloween theme. I forgot all about it and I made my husband run downstairs and get it. Again, it's the Halloween theme and it's called Scaffolding. I have recently become aware of the skull beneath my skin. The drapery that covers it feels flimsy, papery as birch bark, and it will never readhere to its familiar bony underlayer, maxilla, frontal, nasal, every brace that does the job of bolstering up my face until the day it doesn't, leaving bare a fierce, voracious grin, hollow stare, socket nose, and non-existent ears, the omnipresent image that appears on cars and plastic bottles everywhere containing Drano, turpentine, and lye, a selfie waiting for the day I die. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marilyn, for hitting all our main themes. That was
May I
terrific.
just interrupt with one thing?
Yeah.
David Southward and I are in the same book club, and we are reading this week or this month Dracula. So all of these references to, you know, vampires and blood and things like that are hitting home a little more than usual.
Oh,
Thought you needed to know
fantastic.
that.
That sounds like a fun book club. Thank you.
It's a weird book club, but we love it. Don't we, David?
Our next reader is Wendy Vidalesque. And Wendy, I think you should be able to unmute.
Yeah, I am.
Thank you.
This has been so much fun. Thank you so much, Melissa, for putting it together. I think I'm going to take the prize for the shortest poem. It's a one-word poem, and it's called The First Poet. Ugh. That's it. That's all I got. So I have this little poem that was inspired by a call to poets. And the call to poets went like this. Dear writers, I'm compiling the first in what I hope is a series of publications I'm calling Artists Among Artists. The theme for issue 1 is Faggot Dinosaur. Hope to hear from you, editors. So this was my response. I think that I shall never fear a brontosaurus that is queer, iguanodon as fetishier, a mammoth bringing up the rear, an astrodon with extra gear, metrosexual squirrel and deer, a breeder with a dance career, a fruit with cauliflower ear, a lesbianic chanticleer, a grinning limpish wristed leer, the weird one or the mutineer. But those who perfectly adhere, stay clear, stay clear, stay clear, stay clear. Thank you, thank you. And I have this little one called Spin. I should say this one did not win me any awards with my friends. Too many people thought I would referring to them, and I thought, well, if the shoe fits, it's called Spin. I have a friend in possession of a philosophic spin. If I should speak of art, theology, the universe, or whim, he thinks I speak of him. This enduring tick, indicative of universal spins, theology, art, and whim, nonetheless makes conversation grim. I still get a kick out of it. And I wanted to get in the poem that appears in the current light, and it is called Everybody's a Critic. Sunny, yes, and a little too windy. Edgy, sure, and awfully trendy. Rhymed, yes, like a machete. Eager, yes, and a little too friendly. Earthy, yep, with airs aplenty. Lengthy, yes, and awfully empty. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Wendy. It's terrific to hear you read. We have one more reader on our original list, and that is Paul Willis. And again, if there's anybody else here, we have probably a couple more minutes to round out our 90. If anybody else here would like to read their poem from the issue, perhaps, just let me know in the chat. And Paul Willis, please take it away. You just need to unmute.
Thank you, Melissa. And thanks for gathering us together this afternoon. And so nice to hear everyone and see you as well. Katherine, you read a poem about Adam and Eve. My first poem's called Cain and Abel. Abel fed the little lambs. Cain raised Cain. Abel wasn't able to feed the lambs again. And here's a poem that was in Light 5 years ago. Upon attempting a half marathon with my daughter on my 60th birthday, here I sit, all broken-hearted, came to run and only started, while my daughter flees before like time's winged chariot out the door. If only I could thumb a ride, I would finish by her side. But as it is, I'll watch her fade and sip my nectar in the shade. Other men will cross the line, but I am feeling, thanks, just fine. For when I quench my antique rage, I'll walk a bit and act my age. Finally, the poem that appears in the current issue of Light. It's an election poem called Shakespearean Candidates. I just got to thinking that if different characters in Shakespeare were running for president, what would they have to say for themselves by way of persuasion? Shakespearean Candidates. Lady Macbeth, she'll keep you sharp. Brutus, he's got your back. Cleopatra, asp not what she can do. Antony, love and attack. Hamlet, debating on your behalf. Ophelia, her chances are slim. King Lear, retiring but on the job. Andronicus, hand it to him. Prince Hal, biding his time. Falstaff, once more to the beach. Othello, promising never to choke. Iago, revenge is in reach. Romeo, wherefore any other? Juliet, I drink to thee. Malvolio, no more cakes and ale. Viola, look, I'm a she. Bottom, oh sweet and lovely wall. Shylock, the one with a plan. Prospero, it will just disappear. Caliban, get a new man. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody. What a wonderful, wonderful bunch of readings. And taking a cue from Paul's last poem. I hope everyone has either voted or is planning to vote. To help continue keeping your spirits up between now and November 3rd, I hope you'll keep tuning in to Light's Poems of the Week, which come out every Monday, including tomorrow. We have at least one or two tomorrow on the election theme. And this will surely not be our last edition of Light Verse in Dark Times. I look forward to seeing you all again at some point, I hope not too far away, and I hope we will all be celebrating slightly brighter times when we reconvene. I'm going to unmute everybody if I can, or if you can unmute yourself. I'm having trouble finding that little button at the moment. So if you can unmute, please do. Feel free to chat for a few minutes, say hi, give everybody a huge round of applause. You all sure deserve one.
Melissa, will this be on YouTube?
Thank you, Melissa.
Yes, it has been recorded. Thank you for asking, Chris. It's been recorded, and we will be posting as soon as possible. And I will confirm that in the newsletter and on our Facebook page and so on.
Thank you, Melissa. It was so much fun.
I look forward to
Thank
hearing
you for
Leslie's
reading.
poem
So
again.
much. Thank you.
Melissa, may I say that's the way to conduct a reading online. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, it's an inside joke there.
I get it.
No comment. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Great.
Thank you. It was so great to see you all.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.